Business development 101.
Into
Say some dumb shit, but not like cancel level dumb shit, but like just dumb shit to
Borderline.
have some funny.
Borderline. Yeah.
Work.
The more fringe you are, the more attention it feels
Yeah.
like you're probably going to get these
Me
days.
too.
Like try to piss off like 23% of the people, and that's a good level.
You know, actually, that really is a good psychology piece. And I was reading some research the other day that it's the paradox of time, right? Well, a lot of people feel like time goes faster as you get older, but it's interesting because in our brains, the more routine and the more monotonous life is, the faster it feels because everything blurs together, which is why it's so important for people to go out there and try new things. As they're trying new things, it creates a novelty experience. Now, unfortunately, some of those novelty experiences, like getting fired from a job, like that's a pretty jarring thing. But if you think about the most memorable times of your life, they're usually because something new or something novel came in, whether it's an experience, whether it's a relationship, whether, whatever that is. And then at some point, people get settled in, they find that routine, they get in that rut, and it feels like they crave that novelty. And I think that coaching inherently is, how do you create productive novelty? How do you give someone a stimulus that they need to then adapt to, whether it's from a nutrition perspective? A deficit is a novel stimulus that gets the body to lose weight. Opposite is a surplus. Fitness, lifting heavier weights will get you stronger. That's a novel experience. If you do the same thing all the time, your body doesn't have the need to adapt to something new. And thus that's where stagnation comes in. So psychologically, cellularly, there's like this drastic overlap of like, we seek new things. And that's where I think it's so cool that psychology and physiology are definitely overlapped. And I think that they tie very well into business, because business is the ability to continuously do things from a novel perspective. And we know that the new things are the things that get marketed and get attention. Like, so, what do you guys think about novelty and psychology and the 4 pillars, and what do those mean to you guys? Right. So I wrap up my rant.
Keep going. Keep going.
No, I've had some caffeine today as well.
Here's your soapbox.
Oh my God. I mean, it's everything is everything and everything is nothing. And that's a little too philosophical, but I mean,
Isn't the third one nothing is everything?
And nothing is everything. Yeah. So,
I think the psychology of all the pieces of what we do, and I think you actually put it in better terms that's relatable, because it's like, oh, we're going to have a coaching psychology course, and that for the non nutrition nerd, I say that lovingly in the group here, that sounds fucking boring and whatnot, because it's like, oh, why do I want to do this? But you use the word peopling, which obviously is something that I highly value in my life and whatnot. It's about creating that relationship and being able to open up a really good line of communication and trust and inherent I'm willing to listen to you, I think is probably the core of what that is. But it's, when we think about some of those things, the novelty, you'll see gurus out there, you'll see people out there they come up with these new words, these new buzzwords to go and promote something, this new way to paint the same exact thing in a different way to get a similar result all the time. And some days it's, buzzword A and it's super cool, and this is 3.0 and it's going to be more amazing, and all of this stuff. And then the next thing is, oh, we're not going to go down this road of growth and scale, but rather we just want everybody to be controllable and happy and as profitable as can be. And, we're going to do these different things. And it's, at the end of the day, there's a similar underlying tone here, where the question that I would ask is, if somebody is changing their rant and the thing and the rally point all the time, and by say all the time, every 3-4 months, what's going on? Like, why is the cornerstone of what they're doing and saying changing so frequently? Is the education you're getting, is the message you're getting different? Or are they just trying to put different lipstick on a different pig to make the same damn thing happen? And that's unfortunately what happens all too often. So for us, and the way that we're thinking about building beyond the pump and what we really want to do, the psychology to encapsulate multiple things of it, sure, there's a marketing aspect, and we're going to cover that in the business development portion of what we do, right? So 4 legs to this stool that we're focusing on, and psychology component, the business development component, then you lean into the nutrition and the fitness. But the big thing is the cornerstone really needs to be, hey, what are you weak at? What's
Mm,
the thing that's hurting your business? There's always these get 10 new clients in 10 days to make $10,000 a month mentality. And $10,000 a month might be the right number. I'm not saying that it isn't. But really quickly, before I say how many new clients and how many days and how much money, what are you working towards? Like, what's your goal? What is your version of freedom? If you're trying to replace your job right now, your income that your family relies upon, pay for health insurance, and be able to stack your 6,000 and change dollars away every year in your IRA and go on 2 vacations, that looks drastically different than I want to go out, lead 3 people, have $500,000 a year of income, and be able to buy a Lamborghini. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but the thing that people don't tell you really comes down to this whole idea that you can be a millionaire and a 7 figure, listen to the 7 figure and 8 figure entrepreneurs and all those things. Again, not bad, but they're not telling you about the leadership. They're not telling you about the communication. They're not telling you about the structure. They're not telling you about a lot of the things that has to happen in order for that to become true. You
mhm,
are like, I'm not going to say never, but you are likely not building a 7 or 8 figure coaching business as a single person. But do you want to worry about people showing up, delivering a service at a high level, people having bad days, feeling like you don't care about them enough, and having to have team meetings and give constructive criticism and feedback and all of these things? Do you want to do those things? I love that shit. I'm down.
mhm.
But if you don't like doing those things and you don't want to give feedback, don't do it. Don't think that you're going to go down that road. And that's what a lot of these people don't tell you and they don't share with you. And
Mhm.
that becomes this false dream that gets shared of go make billions of dollars for free. Like, no, that shit ain't free. It's going to
Mhm.
take time, effort, and energy to get there.
Mhm.
So, no matter what, we have this idea, this 4 legged stool, and I would say the cornerstone of it is going to be come take the thing that you need to be better to succeed. But, like, hey, real quick,
Mhm.
where are you going so we can help you in your journey achieve the thing that you want to achieve? Because it's more about you than it is about us. I don't want you to buy shit that you're never going to use and not get value out of. I want you to buy things that are going to solve the problem you have.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's a really cool when you because it sounds like basically you're taking a skills based approach to obstacle resolution, right? When people are so urgent, and this is when we think about early coaching, it's crazy to think that everyone comes in thinking the plan is the only thing that matters, right? When you're a new personal trainer, you're like, oh man, I can put the workout together. It's like one small component, and then you realize, well, one workout doesn't give you the result. Well, I can put a whole workout plan together, right? Like, well, why aren't people doing the workout plan? Oh, nutrition. Well, then they stack that in there. Like, oh, working and nutrition. Like, well, why is this stuff not working? And then you realize it's about giving the people what the people think they need in that moment in order to overcome whatever it is that's the biggest performance limitation. But I love the fact that a skills based approach is a quintess. It's just so important that you take the time to understand the person that's sitting across from you, and it's the best way that you feel a sense of control over an unpredictable outcome, right? Everything's a black box. Every it goes in, you get something out of the bottom, and you hope that you can control the things that are going in to try to control the result at the bottom. However, you may not actually have that opportunity. And so when you think slow down, identify everything that may be a deficiency, and then build from there, I think it's really that's probably the best way to develop a team, a culture, an individual, a client. It's universal in my experience in education. I mean, Brandon, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, this is cool. I'm glad I get to be a part of this conversation because I'm learning a lot from the psychology and business side of things. But I can definitely, yeah, I mean, I guess I've been a consumer of like I saw a program and I signed up for it, thinking, oh, okay, I think this is going to fix my program or fix my problem, and I sign up $97 here, and it's like, okay, well, I felt like I already
Mhm.
knew all of
Mhm.
that, and so but there was all these
Mhm.
promises made that I was like, I don't know, I felt like this was just a leftover recording that you might have just
Mhm.
used. I'm like, okay, let's brand it this way. And so yeah, and that too is, I mean, why it's so cool to be a part of this is, again, I just really appreciate and respect transparency and authenticity. And I love that's actually why I've also had a problem like doing sales myself, because I'm like, if I don't fully like, even for myself, I did a lot of photography, videography in the past, and I was always like, I had some personal training experience, but I never felt too comfortable. This is, I mean, a personal development thing for myself, but never felt comfortable selling that, because I'm like, well, there's other products out there. I don't want to lead you astray. Again, that's a whole rabbit hole in itself. But same thing. I mean, like, one of the few things where I actually had to sell and genuinely, full-heartedly believe that it really was one of the best products on the market was when I worked at a donut shop. I full-heartedly believe that these are some of the best donuts. I have no issue telling you, like, these are great donuts. And it was really like was it a
Mm.
milestone?
So Brandon, you sell donuts,
Yeah.
you eat fried chicken, and you drink Mountain Dew, and you are our resident nutrition guy.
He also lifts. He deadlifts over 500. He squats over 4, and he benches over 3. Like,
You deadlift 500 pounds?
yeah, dude,
525.
he's a beast, bro.
Fuck yeah.
525.
He can barely
525
do a
at 165. Yeah.
he barely do a muscle for a
520.
snatch, but that boy is strong.
Over
I mean,
400.
so what I'm learning right now is don't eat lunch, consume Mountain Dew, and eat fried chicken, and you can deadlift a lot.
Listen,
And do a water fast, sit in a hot tub for 8 hours, just deplete
one day,
Guys, you are this 4-legged stool is like a 5-legged stool. It's going to be the 4 core components, and then the 5th one is going to be a massive list of like just dumb shit that Steve says about all these things. So, anyway, sorry, Brandon, I completely interrupted you, and
Yeah,
the transparency
don't
and
follow
the,
me.
all
It's all
that stuff.
experimental. I put myself through it so that you listeners don't have to. So I do the hard stuff so that you can learn from my mistakes. Cutting weight though, yeah, it's a whole story. But it's
Yeah.
and that's where really at the end of the day where why I really enjoyed nutrition coaching, because in a way it's you can essentially choose who is the right fit for you based on questions, where if it is someone's like, yeah, I want to lose X amount of weight, and it's like, okay, well, why? And I'm like, I just want to tone up. And I'm like, okay, well, what's your definition of toning up? But it's that behavior aspect, which I really wish I had gotten some sort of education, expand my education in psychology, because really everything, like having a little bit of background in marketing and nutrition, all really at the end of the day starts coming back into that psychology aspect. But it's yeah, with I don't want to go down too far of a rabbit hole, but yeah, just being a little bit more on the baby side of things, it's been cool to just experience all of this for myself. And yeah, it's so it's still a lot to learn, but yeah, I'm glad to be able to participate in these 4 pillars.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, it seems like there's an element of we've talked about skills and like acquiring skills and like what it means to people versus what it means to write programs versus what it means to like eat fried chicken and deadlift 500 pounds. But I think at the end of the day, more important than any one piece of information is having an information integration strategy of like, how does this one thing that you're learning fit into your overall paradigm, or like how you currently think and how you currently operate. And so the more things you learn, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, maybe eating fried chicken before a deadlift isn't great, but maybe it's great before, going on a marathon run. And we find that there's so much individual nuance that you have to have all these tools, but the integration strategy is, well, when do you actually use the tool and what is its use case? And, there have been times where I've had to take out nails and I didn't have a hammer with the hook part. I can't remember what that's called. I think the hooky, right? But like you take the screwdriver and you have to use that to leverage it out. So you use it for an off-brand label, and people are doing this shit with Ozempic right now. Like I can go off on this one, but people are using Ozempic, which is supposed to be a diabetic medication, and they're using it for off-label use, which is weight loss. It's not intended for weight loss, although it is supposed to help you manage your appetite and ultimately control your blood sugar. But people are getting in trouble with that right now because the use case isn't appropriate, and because insurance companies are now coming down and saying, hey, you didn't do the lifestyle stuff, you didn't do this, and now people are being stuck with like a $1,700 bill a week. Like the cost is exorbitant, and is that the best tool that that person could have used in this particular instance? Sometimes it actually is. But I think understanding, again, coming back to the psychology and the peopling that Steve mentioned earlier, it's always going to be fully based upon the person or the organization that's sitting across from you. And you have to be able to ask the right questions. So, I mean, Steve, do you have any specific questions that you like to ask people whenever you're feeling them out? Because you obviously have a great skill set with building relationships.
I think when it comes to this line of work and what we're doing here, it just really comes down to the first opening question of like, hey, what do you need help with? And
Right.
it almost always comes down that road of I need help growing my business. I need more leads.
Yeah.
Some version, some words of that, right? We're actually kicking off a free 60 days of coaching, and overwhelmingly, that path, growing my business and leads, marketing in my business, was the thing that really came through. So that might be, literally speaking, exactly what people need. They need help marketing. They have a great skill set. They have a great system. They have a great follow through. They have a great team. They have a great whatever it is. They just don't know how to market because maybe you don't know how to market. The reality is, though, I'm going to say that that's probably not what most people need.
Mhm.
But I can't sit there and say, well, no, you're wrong, because, well, in their minds, they believe it. And that's like going down a political debate or going down
Yeah.
a religious debate that just isn't going to end well, right? Like, you have a
Mhm.
belief. I need to help you understand why maybe your belief is wrong or flawed, or there's different ways to solve it. But my next questions would be, cool, like, what does success look like for your client? No, or they'll achieve their goal. All right, great. Like, that's awesome. How many of your clients have that? Oh, a majority. Oh, okay. Do you have data like actually showing that piece, or is that a feeling? Oh, no, 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 that's what they say. I'm like, oh, okay. Um, well, how many are renewing? How many are sticking around for an extended period of time? How many are all of these questions? And again, it's not a, oh, hey, Brandon, you're lying, but rather I'm just continuing to dig and I just want to
Mhm.
understand these things. More often than not, you come to find out that clients aren't staying for an extended period of time. They're not purchasing beyond any initial commitment because of, I'll say, a lack of results, but I actually don't even believe it's truly a results thing. I think that there's a connection mismatch or a lack of connections that's happening.
Mhm.
I'm not trusting you to help me with my goals enough because of something, and it's probably because we haven't built a good enough relationship. So if you go out and every single month you find 3 or 4 new clients and none of them leave, in 1 year you have 36 to 48 clients. Like, that's
Yes.
way more than any one person can handle.
Wonderful.
But if you go find 3 or 4 clients every single month, and then every single next month 2 or 3 clients leave, in 1 year at best you're going to have 12 to 24 clients. And if you're on the lower end, that 12 clients, well, hey, they're each paying $300 a piece. That's $4,000. Like, you're only making $40,000, $50,000, which might be good. So I shouldn't say only. You're making 48, 50 grand rounding here. But the amount of effort having to go in to continue to find 3 to 4 new to replace
Mhm.
the 2 to 3 leaving, and everything else, and then build a new relationship, build a new plan, build a this, build a that, that's an entirely different story than you just going out and getting and keeping 1 to 2 a month and having a significantly smoother, more predictable business. There's a lot of numbers flying around, and you're probably like, I don't even know what the fuck you just said. So to simplify that, would you rather get one new client and keep them for a year, or get 3 new
Okay.
clients and then lose 2 the next month?
Okay.
Because one of them is way more work and effort to continue and maintain than the other one. And a
Uh-huh.
lot of people are choosing that latter option inadvertently because they're not being educated well by the partner that they've chosen to
Uh-huh.
help educate them.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's beautiful because there's so many business gurus that are out there that are so heavily focused on acquisition, thinking the more clients you have, the more money you'll make. But it's like pouring water into a colander. It's just going to keep leaking out. And I think it's interesting that, when we consider the problem of acquisition or retention, or like building a business without a foundation, there's no business. But you got to keep your walls up if you want to start to frame out the house and so on and so forth. And the way that we look at a micro level versus a macro, where I think about macro is like business, like how many clients do you have on your roster, not who are your clients, which is a micro level approach to building a meaningful business and to retaining your clients, right? But I think it's really important that people understand the number one reason why someone will stop buying services from you is that they will get frustrated. And all frustration is, and it's such a simple thing, is frustration is simply unmet expectations. And that's usually a communication issue. That's usually an exploratory issue. It's assumptive in nature. And that's why, Steve and I had a great conversation early on. I would say probably like 6 to 12 months in during our working relationship that, the question came up was, what are the critical assumptions that we're making as we're driving down this line? Like, what are we not considering, or what are we thinking our consumers are going to want or need? And we're not asking those clarifying questions, And so I think from a micro level, we have to take the time to understand and align on what the expectations are. Otherwise, as we're doing our thing, and if we think it's what our client needs, maybe that's not what they were expecting, despite it being essential for their process. And so now we're always having to reconcile and like balance that out of like helping them understand, and at the same time also collaborating with them on how to drive those outcomes. But I think that in order to even earn the opportunity for them to share what those frustrations are, those expectations, and I think it's really important that you consider that most people don't know what they want. They just want what everyone else has. And so as you're getting these consumers in, they just want the sculpted body. You're like, I think it's really cool that recently all the social media stuff around the Marvel guys, right? Like Wolverine, Deadpool, like these individuals that had these very shredded, lean physiques on screen. That's coming out that they spend months getting ready for that singular shot, and they're not in usually a great condition. I think, Hugh Jackman, for his recent Wolverine appearance in Deadpool, like he shredded for 3 months. He said, hey, he already had to be in great shape. And he literally did a water fast and a water cut going into that. He had a headache and he couldn't like really do anything outside of just be there for that shot where he's literally just I don't want to spoil it, but he's just doing this one pose and this one hold, and it's not very active. There's not a lot of dialogue, right? But I think that in order to understand what those expectations are, we have to build trust, which is the number one thing that is relational currency. The same way that you spend dollars to get food, you have to spend currency and trust dollars to actually get people to do what you want. The question around psychology and peopling is, how do you build that trust to get them to want to actually take your advice and to want them to believe you? Know, like, and trust. Like, it's a very cornerstone marketing concept, and Steve can speak a lot more to that. And I'd be curious to know, like, Steve, from your perspective, how do you build trust when it comes to building a business and marketing?
You know what? It really comes down to, and I saw this yesterday on Facebook, I think it was, and they were comparing 2014 marketing versus 2024 marketing. And 2014 was, oh, I'll buy this thing for cheap. And then, oh, cool, they're telling me a video, and what I want is really the next thing. And you do that 5 times in a row, and you upsell people right through a landing page, and everybody click credit card, click credit card, no problem. Where in 2024, it's more about, let me give you something that's so inexpensive that I can just wildly over deliver value, that the only thing left afterwards is for you to say, man, I can only imagine what I would get if I bought that.
Right.
So in today's world where we're all skeptical about marketing, the internet, all these different things that have been thrown our way, the amount of courses that we've all bought, even the 3 of us, that we haven't gone through, that didn't deliver, that talked about all these could do's but never a should do. There's no actionable items. There's no tangible anything. It's just, Brandon, you mentioned earlier, I think this was something you accidentally recorded and you're just giving it to me trying to make me think it's worth something. We've all bought that stuff. And on the other side of it, we've all found no value in them. So how about we go down and just create massive value that either A, you can take this thing and run. And if you paid me $7 and you win on that $7, I'm freaking happy. And I hope you win. But if you do want more, I have something else here that if the 7 got you 7,000, now if you're going to spend 700, you're going to get 70,000. And it's like, that's the way that we are thinking about every single thing we're doing, because
Uh-huh.
that's the way that we need to make sure we're actually going to drive success for people in today's day and age. But on
Yeah.
top of it, when you come and you spend time with us and you listen to us and you learn from us, that's the mentality we're going to teach you.
Uh-huh.
Because if somebody pays you $300 to solve a problem, and if you give them a $3,000 return on that $300, I'm willing to bet they're going to pay you again next month and maintain working with you.
100%. 100%. They got that trust at that point. The
Yep.
expectations have been set. They know what there is for them. And there's a proof of concept. And so Robert Cialdini and his, 6 types of influence, reciprocity, social proof, liking, like all that fun stuff is, just goes to show that it's always going to be a people problem at some point. Not everyone needs to solve the people problem at first. Not everyone needs to solve the program problem at first. It's like you have to know which one is which, because it seems like market timing is probably the most important thing after people, right? So I don't know. I mean, Brandon, do you have any closing thoughts as we wrap up, as we approach the 30-minute mark here on relationships, peopling, psychology, marketing?
Yeah, I really like what you said about trust is like the currency with um
Trust is relation currency. That same way you
yeah.
buy, you buy behavior.
Yeah, and that's been I've seen that firsthand too with building relationships in my life, both professionally and personally, and even yeah, professionally too. It's one of those things where you just you can keep building that trust, and it's almost in its way. I mean, depends on the type of person you want to be, but if you're genuinely trying to build that trust, you will see the fruit of that work. You could also do it and just be like, I'm just going, I'm just put an act on for as long as I can to get what I need, type of thing. But
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that'll eventually come to play. But yeah, and that's honestly really how I've tried to approach anytime I work with clients. It's just I want to be able to do right by them, because that will, one, not just benefit me in the long run, just morally, like ethically, like, okay, I did right by them, but hopefully it also gets them to where I can genuinely be the answer for whatever their problem is. But and potentially help out other people too. And that's the branches that I like to try and create when I work with people. But yeah, I really like that. I really like what you had to say
Yeah.
there. But yeah, good
I mean, those
stuff.
are great perspectives, when you consider like Steve, and again, like understand that as you guys are listening, we all have our biases, we all have our experiences, and we have the things that we hold to be true. And, mine is that.
Bro, I'm not biased.
Okay. All
Every
right.
single thing that comes
Some
out
of
of my
us
mouth
are aware. So,
is factual. Okay. Factual. If you want to lose weight, you don't eat lunch.
oh my God.
Some people say never skip dessert. I say always skip lunch.
Check our merch store. You guys are gonna.
Because Andrew said that's the best way to lose weight.
Andrewisms. Oh my goodness. We all have our isms. Like as y'all are listening, actually, it'd be really cool if the listeners were to send in our isms, because I don't think we know what they are half the time until after we listen, and we never listen to our own podcasts. At least I don't. I hate my voice. But yeah, I mean, any closing thoughts for you, Steve, as we wrap up our part on people in psychology and why it's one of our cornerstones?
No, I think when we talk about, we went down pretty deep on this episode in on certain things and maybe some beliefs. But if there's something that I want you to take away from this episode, it is the idea of the 4 pillars of what we're bringing to you. And simplistically, those 4 pillars are nutrition, fitness, psychology, and business development. But it's in such a way on what do you need to win. We are a fan of using a diagnostic tool to understand what it is you need to win. But same token, if you believe you need something else, we're not going to force the thing that we think down your throat. We're here to partner with you in winning, and you need to believe in it 100%, or you're not going to take action. One of the biggest things that I'll leave you guys with today is most of you probably have the information you need to win. You just haven't taken the action yet. So why haven't you taken the action? And this is a funny full circle real quick right now. And Brandon, you don't even know this, but Andrew and I, you saw all of these different content things in our StreamYard. One of the early podcast ideas that we had was the idea of the action podcast. And action was really meant to be something where, hey, we want you to go take the action to change what it is you're in, whatever state you're in, whatever thing you're trying to solve. Action is actually an acronym that we came up with, which was any change towards improving one's norm.
Mm.
So when we think about it, you have the information or you have access to the information, especially if you're listening to this. That means you have a phone or a computer or something that gives you internet access. Our job isn't necessarily to give you new information. Hopefully we do, and I think we will. But I think our job really is to remove the obstacle of you not taking enough action, which is probably around some type of belief architecture that has to happen for you to be so solid, so believing in what it is that you're doing and want to do, that nothing is going to get in your way. Because you're going to have some bad days. You're going to have some really good days. But on the bad days, you need to find a way to push through it. And on the good days, you got to push harder. And it comes from a deep rooted belief that what you're doing is the world needs. And if you don't have that belief, you're not going to take enough action, or you're going to be timid or afraid or move more slowly. So I hope the four legs of that stool make sense. I hope those pieces make sense. I hope being able to understand what it is you need as well as deliver what we believe you need makes sense. Most importantly, we want to fuel your belief in what you have and what you're doing so you can go take a high level of certain action to create the outcomes that you want.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, that's without action, nothing happens. The knowledge action gap, super important for most people to negotiate. If you don't know how to do that, go find a mentor. Go find someone to hold you accountable or to help you build your systems. But the thing I'd like to leave people with is that systems will elevate you and your environment will stagnate you. So you can have the best systems in the world, but if it's in a terrible environment, best plant in the world, if it's terrible soil, it won't grow. So constantly assess for those things, and you know, mission first, people always. Great militarism. So that said, I think that's going to wrap us up for the episode here. So, as always, thanks so much, guys.